Alrighty, so question one is a question about whether the brain exists and whether the mind exists, whether they're mutually exclusive, whether they can possibly exist together. So I would answer the question in the sense of I've spent many years in school and heard all of the explanations of what the brain is, all of the different areas of the brain, how different chemicals interact, how synapses fire, how damage to certain parts of the brain have certain causes and have certain effects on the physical body and to a certain extent on the emotional awareness. But something still leaves me questioning, how does that relate to experience exactly? I don't experience the world as a synapse. I don't experience the world simply as a random group of firings in part of my brain. I experience it as heat, cold, fear, love, hate. There's a raw experiential element to, I guess, being human that we experience that sort of, to me, I almost envision it in the sense of, the way the way a sail deals with wind. The sail is there. We construct sails. We know how they work in theory. And to a certain extent, we understand how weather systems work, high pressure and low pressure. But wind itself is something that is simply just experienced in that moment. It's fleeting, it disappears, but you can never really hold on to it. You know it's there, but no one can grasp it. It seems almost childish to think about, but there are moments on a windy day where you question, what is this? Where does it come from? And I think, in some ways, I think of that as a parallel with the relationship between the mind and the brain. I've seen many brains. We've all taken high school science class. I've touched them, felt them, pointed out different parts of the brain. But as to, in my day-to-day experience, how I go through my life, I don't interact with the world in a way that is cognizant, and it's an interesting word to use, of the fact that there's some organic being inside of my head. I fully experience the world in the present, in the instant. There's no gap. I don't experience stimuli. I don't experience stimuli and inputs. I experience the experience for whatever that means. And that's sort of the gap, I think. And I think of it's interesting in the sense of when we think of, it's almost like a religious experience. Every moment is almost like a religious experience where certain religious individuals will have had an experience of the divine or the other, and it's unshakable. They can't explain it. They don't understand it. It just happened. And to me, experience is almost like that. The way I see, feel, touch, hear, it requires an incredible amount of abstraction for me to understand that in a scientific mindset. Although I can conceptualize all of those things, cognize them, understand them, there's still, for me, and I'm sure for many other people, a fundamental disconnect between that explanation of brain, mind, and its disconnect with our experience of being in the world. So that's my answer to question one. It's a little bit of a ramble, but I mean, it's all good.